Check out this Charizard. Good old base set. An icon in Pokemon card collecting, and one of the most recognizable pieces of Pokemon merchandise ever. Actually, wait a second. That's not right. That's different. That's different. That's definitely different. But believe it or not, this card isn't counterfeit either. Hey Pokemon fans, it's Jwix here with my set review for Pokémon Evolutions, the next Pokemon trading card game set that releases officially on November 1st. A lot of people don't know this, but this channel began as a Pokemon trading card game show, and while I've been able to expand and talk about some of my favorite things from Nintendo games as a whole, I'd love to get back to my roots and talk about the Pokemon trading card game every once in a while. So what the heck, if we're gonna do a TCG video, let's get the old theme song up and running.
You're Reggie Rocket with the nonsense and my hopes Poke projects. You won't stop till you're about to the top with all the hobbits. Hip with the metagame train, the reigning top kid's at the top of his game, and you can't hit my top list. You want the best tricks? I suggest you profit. You want a mess Brit? I suggest you drop it. Once we started rolling, you know you can't stop it. Let's go and get some lessons from Jwix and Profit. Yeah.
Pokémon Evolutions is the ultimate nostalgic Pokémon card set, featuring a huge portion of base set Pokémon cards, slightly updated for the modern day, with better attacks and a cleaner layout, but still maintaining the same classic art. The holographic cards use the same foil style that we used to see in the Wizards of the Coast print run of the cards, which we haven't seen in over 10 years. Classic style Basic Energy are back, even for the types that weren't officially Basic Energy back in the day, like Fairy, Dark, and Metal. The more recent, but still pretty old now, mirror-style reverse holo pattern also returns, giving you alternate foil patterns to some old cards in a way that you haven't seen them before. This is some of the most fun I've ever had opening Pokemon card packs. For the most part, the art is close to identical to the base set, which feels like a direct reliving of how it felt to open base set cards nearly 20 years ago. In addition, there are a few other classic cards brought back that weren't in base set, but are still incredibly retro. Cards like Here Comes Team Rocket, Surfing Pikachu, and Flying Pikachu make their way into this set with almost identical text as the original cards. My two favorite surprises, though, are secret rares that bring back cards you might not have seen growing up, such as the Bilingual Executor card, which was originally a promo given out at the Tropical Mega Battle in 1999. The other card I am thrilled to have is the first ever English print of Imakuni's Doduo. Imakuni is the inspiration for the first ever Pokemon Fact of the Day video that I recorded, so simply seeing this card just gets me emotional. The English translation is spot on, right down to the directions telling you how to throw your Doduo for the most distance, and the requirement to sing while doing the attacks. Simply looking at a lot of these cards, it's honestly crazy how much Pokemon has changed. A good example is Machamp. The Evolutions Machamp has 60 more hit points than the base set original. The new ability adds 3 damage counters instead of 1 from the original Poke Power. And while the original Machamp only did 60 damage for 4 energy, this new one does double the damage for only 3 energy. Oh wow, I didn't even notice this in the script, but the new Machamp even has 1 less retreat cost. And despite all of this new Machamp is still pretty much unplayable in the competitive game. Evolution stands as a perfect set example for the power creep and nerfs that we've seen in the Pokemon trading card game. Draw power has been scaled back a lot from the old Professor Oak cards, which would allow you to discard your hand and draw 7 over and over again in a single turn. That same power is now limited to supporter cards that you can only use once a turn. The new Professor Oak variant in this set, Professor Oak's Hint, is much weaker and also ends your turn. However, the Pokemon themselves have grown a lot over the years. Once upon a time, a Pokemon like Hitmonchan dominated the metagame because it dealt quick damage as a basic Pokemon, knocking out your opponent in the opening turns before they could even evolve. Powerful basic Pokemon are still a factor in the modern metagame, but it's a completely different animal in the form of Pokemon EX. Massive basic Pokemon cards, often with over 150 hit points that deal unspeakable damage or effects. While EX Pokemon do give up 2 prize cards each instead of 1, they are by far the staple of today's Pokemon metagame. Ironically, Hitmonchan also got a tiny buff in this set as well. While I absolutely love this set from a collector's perspective, I have some minor complaints. While most of these Pokemon are buffed, a small count are actually nerfed. Chansey is one example. It gained 2 additional retreat cost, but it has the same attacks and same HP. It's also weird to me that they'll buff some Pokemon like Hitmonchan, but leave others like Electabuzz untouched. I understand that Electabuzz evolves now and Hitmonchan doesn't, but these cards were part of a classic deck together, and it's weird to see only one of them seeing change. Heck, these cards in particular have been printed together in the past as secret rares, and they were both pretty much unchanged then too. Speaking of Electabuzz, a few cards here or there seem a little washed out in color compared to the original cards, and this is one example. A final thing I'm a little bummed by is that there's no reprint of the classic Venusaur or Blastoise cards, only Charizard. All three Pokemon get representation through EX cards that are also in the set, but it just isn't the same. We've talked a lot about the set as a whole, but it wouldn't be a proper set review if I didn't talk about how these cards might change the modern competitive metagame. To be completely honest with you, this is actually one of the weakest competitive Pokemon trading card game sets in a long time. Besides reprints of a few classic staples like Double Colorless Energy, this set is going to be mostly one for collectors versus players. However, there are a few diamonds in the rough worth looking at, so here's a few cards that interest me. Spirit Links finally come to the Blastoise, Venusaur, and Charizard Mega EX cards. While almost every Mega Pokemon in the trading card game has a Spirit Link, the first few Mega EXs introduced were left without any Spirit Links for years. And it's nice to see that some of these old ones will be able to evolve without ending your turn. The most interesting old Mega EX to me is Venusaur. While 4 energy is definitely asking a lot, being able to inflict auto paralysis is a very rare and powerful effect. The popularity of fire types like Volcanion EX make it nothing more than a fun play, but I'm still happy to see it have a chance. Another trainer card that's mildly interesting is Brock's Grit, a type of modern flower shop lady that allows you to shuffle a combination of 6 basic energy or Pokemon back into your deck. While many decks that require this kind of effect run Super Rod because it isn't a supporter, it's notable that Brock's Grit can be used through Vileplume's Allergy Pollen effect. It isn't especially exciting, but being able to shuffle resources back into your deck is helpful for closing out long games, or even preventing yourself from decking out. The new non-EX Mewtwo is an interesting tech consideration to deal with the popular Mega Mewtwo EX decks. You deal 20 damage, plus 20 more for each energy attached to the defending Pokemon. With Fighting Fury Belt, this allows you to knock out Mega Mewtwo EXs that have 4 energies attached. While this is just barely outside of what I would consider reasonable for dependable knockouts, it's an available option that functions off of a single double colorless energy, which is nice. The new Electrode is also intriguing. At the price of a knockout, you get the ability to instantly attach Electrode as 2 lightning energy to a lightning Pokemon. While it isn't rainbow like the original base set Electrode, there are some cards in today's metagame that can take advantage of falling behind in prizes, such as Ace Trainer and N. Most of the strongest lightning Pokemon printed recently don't need a lot of energy to function, such as Mega Manectric, but energy acceleration is so powerful in the Pokemon TCG that this is a card worth keeping a tab on. Another evolution with a decent ability is Starmie, which has a built-in energy retrieval effect in the form of Space Beacon. Immediate partners for this that come to mind are Pokemon that keep sending energy to the discard pile from your hands, such as Volcanion's Steam Up or Greninja's Shuriken abilities. Starmie also has a break evolution in this set as well, giving you the ability to hit every break on your opponent's side of the field for 100 damage, all in a single water energy. While I don't think there are a lot of decks that run a bunch of break Pokemon in this format, and I think Starmie Break is a fringe option at best, the Space Beacon Starmie is a solid consistency option worth looking at whenever new cards are released that need a lot of energy in hand. One of the best duos in this entire set, believe it or not, is Rattata and Raticate. Rattata, while losing its signature base set free retreat, gains a new ability in Mischievous Fang, which allows you to discard a Pokemon tool card off of the opponent's active Pokemon. Our standard format right now has no reliable tool removal, and Rattata is at least a start. It's searchable, even though it is limited to just the active position, and still gives us no way to deal with Garbodor's Garbotoxin. However, even after you've used Rattata's ability, it still has a useful colorless evolution in the form of Raticate as well. Despite the low HP, Raticate has 2 useful attacks. Automatic energy discard is rare, and Crunch can be an effective attack to close out the game if your opponent is low on energy and you just need to run them out of attacking options. The real star here though is Shadowy Bite, which does a massive 60 damage for each special energy in the opponent's discard pile. Special energies are everywhere in competitive play, from double colorless to rainbow to double dragon. All your opponent needs is 2 special energy in the discard for you to be knocking out a Shaman EX, 3 to KO most basic EX Pokemon, and 4 to knock out just about anything in the format. I wouldn't focus a strategy around it, but being able to deal big damage at the end of a long game for just a single colorless energy is a solid option, made even better by the fact that Rattata is decent too. And my final Pokemon profile is Dragonite EX. This Pokemon acts as sort of a complement to Hoopa EX. While Scoundrel Ring gets you EX Pokemon from the deck, Dragonite pulls up to 2 basic Pokemon from your discard pile. This card will remain a consideration in any deck that relies on filling your bench for huge damage with Skyfield, which includes quite a few builds, such as Raichu, Xerneas, Mega Rayquaza EX, and Mega Gardevoir EX. One of the most devastating things that can happen for anyone trying to play one of these decks is getting hit by a parallel city, limiting your bench down and forcing you to discard. Dragonite EX allows you to recover a little bit better once you get a Skyfield back into play. Its attack is expensive, but it does work with double colorless energy and has some automatic discarding, so it might see a rare desperation use there as well. And that's just about it. Like I mentioned, this really is one of the weakest competitive sets Pokemon has seen in a very long time. While there are some more cute concepts in here, such as swarm attacking with Beedrill or walling with Mew's neutral shield, this set likely isn't shaking the metagame or creating new powerful archetypes. It's a pretty poor set to pick up if you want to start competing, but on the flip side, it's an amazing set to enjoy if you want to take up Pokemon card collecting again. I haven't had this much fun filling up a Pokemon binder in years. The set is packed with memories, whether it's memories of my first tournament decks, cards that inspired old videos, Pokemon that I still see today when I'm speedrunning the Game Boy version of the Pokemon trading card game, and of course, the return of the most iconic card in Pokemon trading card history. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, consider clicking the thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you would like to see more, or let me know what you think on Twitter at TheJWitz. I've been considering adding Pokemon trading card game content back to the side of this channel based on viewer demand, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed this trip. Until next time though, I'll see you guys soon with more Nintendo content.